Okay, so I have my skin tone on my face. You can see it's built up of the different layers. Now if your skin is darker than mine, which it may be, you're either going to keep going with your brown and keep adding more and more brown layers, or you can find darker browns and you can start adding maybe even some purples and blues in there. So now you can see I have the face done, like quote done, but it still looks pretty flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some shadows to make it look more round. So I'm going to look at my picture of myself and I could see the places where I have shadows. So kind of here, underneath of my nose, in my eye area. So those are the 8 places that I'm going to take my brown. I'm going to go in and do even more layers. And I kind of already marked them off with my pencil when I was drawing. I'm going to be a little bit more specific when I'm adding my shadows here. Always make sure you're blending, and the way that I blend is I take my pencil and I make little tiny little marks, little hatch marks to blend out. Now I'm doing that so fast that it looks like I'm just coloring back and forth, but I'm not. I'm making little itty bitty microscopic hash marks to blend. If you don't blend, it'll end up looking like you have a streak right down the middle of your face, and that is not very pretty. I'm going to start with the brown. I'm going to go in around your nose. That is the area that makes your nose look like it's standing out. So, interesting fact, your nose does not have any lines on it. Instead, your nose is only seen because of the way the light hits it. So if you were in a room with no shadows, your nose would just disappear. You wouldn't be able to see it. You might be able to see your little nose holes, but that's it. You wouldn't see anything else. So I'm only going to work on this area around my nose and a little bit on my cheek here. I can see the shadow kind of comes this shape. So I'm going to give my shadow that shape. It's following the shape of Livy's head. Okay, so for on my face, I could stop here and be perfectly happy and be fine with it. But I'm not going to, because I want to see even more depth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my dark colors. I'm going to get my purples and my blues. Okay. And I'm going to go in. And I'm going to ever so lightly. I don't want it to actually look purple or blue. But when I'm going to layer these colors on top, they're going to mix with the orange that's in my skin tone and create even darker shadows that have much better depth than if I were to use black or if I were to keep using brown. I'm going to get some purple in here too. That blue is a little bit harsh. So make sure you have your reference picture out, especially since I printed it in black and white. You should be able to see very clearly where your darkest shadows are, where your mediums are, and where your lights are. Lights are hard to get once you've already colored it, but you can try to layer light color on top. So like this part of my cheek right here is super bright. So I can try to take my white and layer on top, but I don't necessarily think that's going to do very much. Usually what I'll do is I'll layer some white on top, and then I'll just make sure the shadows around it are just a smidge darker than I need them to be, so it makes this part look brighter. So if this part's darker, this part's going to look brighter. Let me put it up close to you so you could see all of those beautiful depth of color in there, but far away it just looks like a shadow. So this is the last thing you're going to do for this portrait before we're finished. You're going to go in and add shadow to everything, not just your face. You're going to add shadows that are there. So if you were to be able to see my body, I would have shadows on my body. Livy's going to have shadows on her neck. I'm going to make sure I go in there and add all of those shadows so that it looks like it has form. It looks like it's three-dimensional. You can practice in your sketchbook first, right on top of that paper that you already colored on. So this part here where you already practiced making your skin tone, you can just go on there and practice. I call them little shading tornadoes, little value tornadoes, because they're dark and then they gradually lift to light. And you can just practice, practice, practice until you have what you're looking for. Remember what I don't want to see. So this is good. This is not so good. Just having straight rough edges. Not as good. So, not good. Okay, get out your sketchbook and practice, and then once you're satisfied with it, you can go ahead and add the value to your portrait. When you're finished, make sure you photograph it, load it to Artsonia, then fill out the rubric and put it in the tray by the door for your class.